Good morning, everyone. Welcome to May's Planning Committee meeting. Clerk, can you confirm that the roll call has been taken?
Through the chair, roll has been taken.
And members of the committee, any conflict of interest to declare? Being none, anything that anybody wants separated? We only have minutes here. Seeing none, can I get a mover and a seconder to place all items for consideration and consent not separated for discussion purposes on the floor? Moved by Councillor Sless, seconded by Councillor McCreary. Any discussion? Errors, omissions? Seeing none, we'll call the vote.
All items not separated for discussion purposes carry on recorded vote of 4-0. Those voting in favor: Councillors Sokoli, Sless, McCreary, and Carpenter.
Okay, we do have one public meeting on today's agenda, and this public meeting is being held in accordance with the Planning Act. The applicant will speak first, followed by staff. Each party will have up to 10 minutes. That is inclusive of questions. Then we'll open up the floor to the public. If anyone has any comments, they'll have that opportunity to do so. And then the applicant will have 5 minutes to provide clarification after that. So I will now call up the applicant's agent up to the microphone here. Yep. And we'll be looking at the bylaw amendment for 85 to 99 Colborne Street West. You'll have 10 minutes inclusive of questions. I don't think your microphone is on yet. There we go. Okay, great. Oh, thank you. And your name is Victoria?
Victoria, yes.
Okay, all right, the floor is yours, Victoria.
Good morning, council members. My name is Victoria Colantonio. I'm here on behalf of the applicant for 85 to 99 Colborne Street in the city of Brantford. I am the planner from Urban and Mind Planning Consultants, and I'm here with my colleague Terrence Glover, who is the principal at Urban and Mind. Okay. So just a quick overview of the presentation. I'm going to be speaking about the subject property, which is shown on the screen right now. This is 85 to 99 Colborne Street West. Then I'm going to speak to the surrounding properties and the surrounding neighborhood character, as well as do a brief policy overview. And then I'm going to speak to the proposed development in terms of the zoning application. And then I'll take any feedback or questions. So here we have a current street view of the subject property. So the subject property is municipally known as, the address is from 85 to 99 Colborne Street West in the city of Brantford. The subject area is approximately 75, or the frontage is approximately 75.48 meters, and the total lot area is approximately 3,036 square meters, or about 0.3 hectares. The site is currently a vacant lot along a mixed-use corridor with surrounding uses such as retail, fast food, and takeout services, scattered residential to the north and the east, and scattered institutional uses. In terms of the surrounding area, the subject property is located along an intensification corridor in a strategic growth area that consists of a mix of residential, service, commercial, institutional, and retail uses. The subject property falls within the strategic growth area, which encourages residential and employment uses to provide for a growing population. The existing streetscape, which is shown up on the screen, is mostly comprised of low-rise buildings that are generally uniform in terms of their built form and their height and their massing. There are no buildings that significantly stand out along the street or disrupt the character of the corridor. To the immediate east of the subject property, we have residential uses, whereas to the west of the subject property, we have more of a mix of uses such as retail, fast food, institutional, etc. Given the current uses in the surrounding area, the proposed development of 2 commercial buildings, including a fast food and drive-through facility, and service commercial uses would not be out of character with regard to the existing nature of the streetscapes of the surrounding neighborhood. In terms of the City of Brantford official plan, the subject property is designated intensification corridor as it's located along an intensification corridor. It's also located within a strategic growth area. The strategic growth area emphasizes an appropriate mix of land uses such as commercial and retail, and a mix of uses within individual buildings and individual sites. In terms of intensification, development will provide a range of uses that are permitted by the city's official plan. Within an intensification corridor that also is pedestrian prominent and transit oriented. The development aims to fill a currently vacant piece of land on the corner of Colborne Street West and Oak Street, and to visually enhance the existing streetscape while also providing for employment and service commercial opportunities and to accommodate the area's current and future population. In terms of the zoning bylaw, the City of Brantford has recently introduced zoning bylaw 124-2024. The subject property is zoned intensification corridor with a pedestrian prominent emphasis. This is the proposed site plan for 85 to 99 Colborne Street West. The proposed site-specific zoning bylaw amendment will result in the creation of a mixed-use development on a currently vacant and underutilized property within this area that's designated for intensification and mixed-use intensification, as well as economic growth. The subject property is large enough to accommodate the proposed development, which is appropriate for the lands, as it will be functional, well-designed, and compatible with the surrounding land uses in the area. The proposed site-specific zoning bylaw amendment for the subject property will also facilitate an appropriate redevelopment of the underutilized site given the applicable provincial, local, and regional policy requirements. It will support an orderly development with the provision of employment opportunities and goods and services that will cater to the surrounding population. It's important to note throughout this design process, the site plan has gone through several redesigns over the past 3 years. We've gone through about 5 major redesigns just due to staff changes, inconsistencies in some opinions, and just different departments having different opinions on the design. In this case, the project was faced with the various redesigns, and ultimately the development was stalled for a few years based on just differing opinions and inconsistencies right up until kind of about a month or so ago. Currently, the staff consistencies and opinions, which has happened over the past 6 months, enabled us to get this proposed site plan, which is supported by staff in the report that was circulated. In terms of our site-specific zoning provisions, we only have a few. So we have the minimum front yard. So even though Colborne Street seems to be the frontage of the subject property, it's actually the shorter of the two of Oak Street and Colborne Street. So our determined front lot line is Oak Street. So we have a minimum front yard setback of 1.8 meters as opposed to 3 meters. So that is one site-specific zoning provision that we are asking for, as well as the minimum exterior side yard, which would be along Colborne Street. And that's 1.12 meters as opposed to the 3 meter minimum requirement. And these are the only two for Building A. Building A is the one located on the corner of Colborne and Oak Street, as per the site plan. And then in terms of Building B, we have the same two because the lots have been merged on title. So we have the same two for the front yard and the exterior side yard. But now we also have the loading space, the driveway access, which instead of the required 7 meters, we are providing 6.5 meters. In terms of the entirety of the site, we are deficient in parking. The required parking count is 69 spaces. We are providing 35 parking spaces. Building B has the drive-through facility, the proposed drive-through facility, which we are required to have 13 stacking lane spaces, and we are providing 10. And then in terms of another overall for the site, the minimum landscape buffer or planting strip to the south and west will be 0 meters as opposed to the 1.5 meter requirement. I also want to note that the east the east side of the site, the landscape buffer, the 1.3 meters is an average. It's not because there's not one consistent landscape buffer. So we averaged it, as there are some areas that exceed 1.5 and then there are some that are below, but the average of that is 1.3 meters. We had some inconsistencies and opinions with our parking and our traffic study. So in terms of this, I just wanted to highlight some of the recommendations and conclusions of our traffic study that we had completed by CGE Transportation Consulting. So we, as per KCG, who was our transportation engineer, she has concluded that her observations show that there are no sight distance obstructions that obscure any of the accesses along Oak Street, because there were some concerns about visibility and the entrance and exit on Oak Street. So it's also important to note that originally, I'll go back to the site plan, we had proposed entrance off of Oak Street and egress to Colborne Street West, and this wasn't seen as favorable. So we have since changed the plan to now have the drive-through go through the site, and entrance and egress will take place along Oak Street only, just because of visibility concerns with exit onto Colborne Street from the drive-through. So that's something that I want to emphasize, that visibility, there are no sight distance obstructions for the Oak Street entrance and exit. Also, that there are no safety concerns for circulation of the site, and vehicles and trucks, cars, pedestrians, all access to the site is expected to circulate in a way that is functional. The proposed parking count does not meet the requirements of the zoning bylaw. However, the parking justification analysis shows that the proposed parking supply of 35 spaces is more than adequate to meet the demand of the proposed development, which was confirmed by parking utilization studies at locations that exhibit similar trends to the proposed site. And lastly, that we will provide strategies to include bicycle parking and other transit incentives for the site, because it is fairly accessible via pedestrian pathways, sidewalks, public transit, and biking. One more thing that I wanted to emphasize was one of the staff recommendations was to look at a parking sharing situation with 21 Oak Street, which is located just north of the subject property, looking at off-street parking alternatives to provide some more parking during peak hours. And the property owner is in discussion with the owner of 21 Oak Street to kind of facilitate that, to see if we can come to an agreement to offer some more parking during peak times that's not on street. However, staff have noted that there is substantial on-street parking opportunities on the side streets that branch off of Colborne Street. These are previous concepts of our rendering. So as you can see, where the Mary Brown's is, there is the exit onto Colborne Street. So that's no longer being proposed. This is more just to show the parking situation and the entrance from Oak Street and how the site will function. However, now the building with the Mary Brown's has been pushed back to accommodate for the drive-through to go through the front of the building and go back into the parking lot instead of exit onto Colborne Street. These are the proposed elevations for Building A, which is located on the east corner of the site, closer to Oak Street. And these are the elevations for Building B, which has the Mary Brown's in the drive-through facility. I would also like to note that we are in a floodplain special policy area. We do understand that we need to apply for a conservation development permit and get that approval before we can move forward with any building on the site. And
Victoria, you've gone about 2 minutes over.
Okay.
Can you wrap it up?
Mhm.
Thank you.
And we have discussed with conservation to talk about, engineering has discussed with conservation to talk about how to best proceed in a way that they would feel comfortable with issuing a development permit. And that's all for my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We don't have any time for questions, but we will move into staff presentation. I'm not sure who's taking this on. Oh, very good.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Madam Chair, committee members, and members of the public. My name is Noor Hermes, and I'm a development planner here with the City of Brantford to present planning staff's recommendations regarding a zoning bylaw amendment application for lands in Ward 1, located at 85 to 99 Colburn Street West. The owner of the lands is Second Colburn Holdings, Inc., and the agent is Urban in Mind. The purpose of the zoning bylaw amendment application is to facilitate the development of 2 commercial buildings comprising a total of 8 units, including a drive-through restaurant and a potential mix of retail, service, and office uses. The subject lands are located at the northwest corner of the Colburn Street West and Oak Street intersection. The lands are currently vacant and approximately 0.31 hectares or 0.77 acres in area. This is a street view image looking north towards the lands from Colburn Street West. This is another image looking west towards the lands from Oak Street. The application proposes to rezone the lands with site-specific exceptions to facilitate the development of 2 commercial buildings. Building A is a 2-story structure containing 4 commercial units with a building area of roughly 567 square meters or 6,103 square feet. Building B is a 1-story structure also containing 4 commercial units totaling approximately 465 square meters or 5,005 square feet in area and includes a 202 square meter drive-through fast food restaurant. The proposal provides 35 surface parking spaces, including 4 accessible spaces, and access to the development is proposed from Oak Street. The proposal aligns with the provincial planning statement's encouragement of mixed land uses that support economic growth and contribute to the vibrancy of the community. The subject lands are within the Brantford settlement area, along an intensification corridor and within a strategic growth area as designated in the official plan, which encourages higher density, mixed use, walkable communities, and transit-oriented development to support growth and provide a variety of employment opportunities. The lanes are currently zoned intensification corridor pedestrian prominent in zoning bylaw 124-2024. The application proposes to rezone the lands to a site-specific intensification corridor pedestrian prominent exception 72 zone with the following performance standards. A front yard setback of 1.8 meters along Oak Street, whereas 3 meters is required. An exterior side yard setback of 1.12 meters along Colburn Street West, whereas 3 meters is required. 35 total parking spaces, whereas 65 are required. 10 stacking lane spaces for the drive-through restaurant, whereas 13 are required. And a driveway aisle width to the loading space of 6.5 meters, whereas 7 meters are required. In addition, the proposed site-specific zoning will include a restriction limiting the property to a maximum of 1 restaurant use. This provision ensures that parking demands remains aligned with the supporting studies and prevents intensification of use beyond what the site can reasonably accommodate, as restaurants can be key drivers of parking demand. Staff have considered that the mix of retail, office, and restaurant uses will generate vehicle trips at different peak times, reducing the likelihood of parking conflicts. The lanes are within both the strategic growth area and the intensification corridor pedestrian prominent zone, and thus share similar characteristics with the nearby lanes within the downtown urban growth center, where parking exemptions are provided. Colburn Street West between Gilkison Street and Mount Pleasant Street share similar features to downtown, including a more compact urban form with buildings set close to the sidewalk. The surrounding urban fabric and nearby on-street parking further ease concerns of overflow. The site is also highly walkable and well serviced by transit, with 3 bus stops within 100 meters. The proposed reductions in parking and stacking are also supported by comprehensive transportation studies completed by professional engineers and transportation experts, which confirm the site can function safely and efficiently with 35 parking spaces and 10 stacking spaces. The completed studies indicate that traffic volumes generated by the proposed development will not create operational issues at surrounding intersections, and internal circulation of vehicles will be safe and functional. Parking surveys completed at comparable sites show that 35 spaces can meet the expected demand, while stacking studies validate the proposed drive-through design. Furthermore, the proposed development is intended to be served by a driveway connection to Oak Street, which allows vehicles and delivery trucks to enter and exit freely without impeding traffic on Colburn Street West. while providing efficient site circulation. The TIS also states the proposed 6.5-meter width of the driveway aisle provides sufficient space for service vehicles to maneuver safely into the loading space. In conclusion, the zoning bylaw amendment conforms to the policies that outlined in the Planning Act, the provincial planning statement, the official plan, and zoning bylaw. The proposal enables a complete mixed-use commercial development on underutilized lands within the urban boundary. Planning staff are supportive of the zoning bylaw amendment and recommend approval. That concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I don't see any question. Oh, Councillor John Sleth.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There are a lot of deficiencies. Are staff comfortable with the level of reduction in a number of areas that will still, I guess, produce a wholesome development?
Through the chair to the councillor, yes, staff are supportive of all the zoning deficiencies listed in the report. The proposal has been extensively reviewed by city staff and the planner representing the agent, as well as a series of engineering and transportation experts. So through extensive review, staff are recommending approval for all the zoning deficiencies.
Okay. And secondly, I didn't see, and maybe I overlooked it, but I didn't see where a public meeting was held regarding this application. Was one held, and what were the results of that?
Through the chair to the councillor, the Planning Act requires 20-day public notice to be circulated to all abutting property owners within 120 meters of the subject site. That public notice letter was circulated to all abutting property owners. And the last couple of years, there was a new provision included in the official plan that requires all zoning bylaw amendment applications to require a public meeting. Given that the proposal had been extensively reviewed and consultation had taken place for a number of years with the developer, this application was reviewed prior to the passage of that provision in the official plan that requires a zoning bylaw, that requires all zoning bylaw amendment applications to hold a public meeting.
Okay.
So there was no public meeting held. It was waived because it was determined that this application was reviewed prior to the passage of that provision.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Carpenter.
Thank you. The property line between 21 Oak Street and this property it doesn't show is a fence there, a wooden fence, is a chain link fence? What's the fencing going to be like along that side?
Through the chair to the councillor, I'm not aware of any fencing requirements, although this proposal will still require a site plan control application. So there will certainly be opportunity to look into fencing and provide it should it be required or deemed necessary.
And there's no landscaping along that in the site plan. Is there landscaping along that side between the parking and the parking lot of the 21 Oak Street?
Through the chair to the councillor, the landscaping is very sparse and limited.
Yep.
Thanks.
Okay. And I didn't see a front view from Coburn Street. So did I miss that, or was that does that show? Is it just a brick wall, or are we going to see business openings from the access from Coburn Street itself?
Through the chair to the councillor, I'm sorry, could you repeat that question?
Coburn Street itself, there's a building that backs onto Coburn Street, or does that front onto Coburn Street, or both?
So building A is situated right at the corner of the Oak Street and Coburn Street intersection as demonstrated in the site plan, and then building B is kind of oriented perpendicular.
Yeah, but the one that backs onto Coburn Street, is it all brick wall or is it glass? What's that view look like?
Through the chair to the councillor, I believe the applicant's agent has further information in that regard, so I'll let him speak to that.
When it comes back. Okay. All right. Thank you.
You won't speak to it now, but you can keep it as something you can remark to afterwards.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Sorry, you can't speak to it right now. We're in question period with staff. Thank you. Councillor Carpenter, were you finished? Yeah, okay. Counselor McCreary, we have a minute.
Thank you, Chair. So the elevation drawing that previous speaker was speaking to is page 6, figure 2. Is that correct?
Through the chair to the counselor, that is correct.
Which shows the view you'd see from Culver Street if you're looking at the site. And the other
That is
one
correct.
is the view you'd see if you're looking from Oak Street, the one below figure 3, correct?
Correct.
We have circulated these things to a number of outside agencies. How long do we give them to respond? Canada Post and school boards and so on. Do you have a recollection of that?
So the Planning Act requires that all zoning bylaw amendment applications be processed within 90 days from the date of a complete application submission to the date of the planning committee meeting. Within that 90 days, there is opportunity to circulate all external agencies that are required. And through the first circulation, we typically provide a 4-week window.
Thank you for that. Time?
That's time. I'll reserve my questions for the appropriate time. Okay. We'll now open this up to the floor for members of the public. I don't see anybody here in council chambers, but I will ask 3 times. Are there any members of the public that wish to speak to this item? Are there any members of the public online that wish to speak to this item? Just use the raise hand function. I do see one attendee. Are there any members of the public that wish to speak to this item? And seeing none, we'll now move forward to the clarification part of this. So the applicant will have an opportunity. You'll have 5 minutes to provide clarification on any of the questions that you may have heard or feedback that you provide
you, Madam
feedback
Chair.
on anything you might have heard.
Members of Council. So I'd
Sorry,
like-
your name?
Sorry, it's Terrence Glover, Urban
Thank
Mind
you.
Planning Consultants. I'm the agent for the owner. Just a couple of questions that you've raised, provide some context to them. So the animation on Colburn Street as well as Oak Street, we've placed some glazing in the windows, entrances. There will be animation on that street front, so it won't be a blank wall. This also has to go through site plan approval, where landscaping materials, things of that nature will be addressed as well. Now, quite frankly, we've gone through the design 5 times, I think, number of issues, reason why. But I think we've got to the point where we're pretty close to finalizing the site plan design even. The landscape was a question too. It is a little bit sparse, but we didn't, because the site is tight, we are going to green spaces, sod, etc., benches. These things will be brought up at site plan approval before they're approved, obviously. We also have to go through conservation to make sure they're happy with how we design the site too, in terms of getting a building permit or development permit from conservation. This will be done through site plan as well. There will be privacy fencing between our site and the residential to the kitty corner, I guess, of the lots at the back. We will likely do chain link fence along us and the property to the north on Oak Street, which is the Grand River Hall, I think it is now. However, we're not sure how that's going to ultimately be designed, because if we are successful in getting shared parking with them, then there may be an access, pedestrian access through the site or something to that site instead of going around to the sidewalk. That's yet to be determined as well. That will be done through site plan approval. And just to point out too that there is a significant deficiency in parking, and we recognize that. But we've done extensive studies to show that in this intensification corridor, with the 3, I think there's 3 bus routes on this path, with the additional residential uses that are coming into this area, there's and cycling, etc., that there's more than enough parking available. But in the sense that if there's a peak performance at the hall, or there's I don't know, everybody's really happy with Mary Brown's and they pile them in all day long, and there happens to be 1 or 2 spaces that are over. We're looking at over parking on the offsite, as well as a significant on-street parking around the area as well, if needed. Again, our professionals and engineers and planning staff and city's engineering staff have suggested that's not the case, but we like to be over-prepared, obviously. Thank you.
Councilor McCreary?
Sure, thank you. Good to see you again, Mr. Glover. Could you briefly tell us about your arborist report? Your arborist report?
The arborist report was completed to maximize to be fair, we don't want to put lots of trees in front of these buildings because you're going to hide the signage, you're going to hide the marketability and the commerce of the area. We will be putting planting next to the buildings.
Sorry, I misled you. Are there any trees on this site now?
There's nothing on this
No.
site. It's a pavement wasteland.
So the arborist report was a blank piece of paper, was it?
It was,
Okay.
and it, in my opinion, we can still look at opportunities to improve it when we get the site plan approval. We do want to, as you know, I used to be a planner here, and Brantford's still near to my heart. So I want to make sure it's a good development that comes through here. Saying that, we have to ensure that the commerce of the site and the function of the site still works.
It's a downtown building. It's street front right on side.
Absolutely. We were asked to bring it as close to the street as possible.
And could you briefly outline the result of the archaeology report?
Yeah, there was nothing significant found in the archaeology. Obviously, with the indigenous presence near the Grand River, it's very important that we look into that. But we circulate, I believe the city circulated to the indigenous
Right.
groups, and there was nothing identified.
Previously built on.
Oh, yes, it was,
Yeah.
the buildings were all torn down and
Right.
just left vacant.
Okay, thank you for that.
All right, seeing no further questions, I'll just ask one quick question of you. I didn't get a chance earlier. There is a driveway onto Colburn as it sits right now. How do you plan on closing that off? Like, are you gonna close that off? What are you gonna do to make sure nobody's misusing that?
So some of our original designs had the drive-through onto Colburn Street. We were of the opinion that that was acceptable. Staff felt that, because of the congestion on Colburn, that although it may have worked, it may not be advisable. So we changed the design to close that entrance up. There was actually 4 properties there, I believe, and each one was entitled to their own access. But since we've merged the properties and, because the frontage is on Oak Street and because engineering staff at the city are a little hesitant about putting an access onto Colburn, we've adjusted it to have the only access on the Oak Street. So the entrances and access and the congestion.
Sorry, I'll clarify. I am absolutely opposed to any access or entrance from Colburn Street, so staff did really well with that. But there currently is a ramp that serves as a driveway from Colburn Street. You're gonna landscape that or something
That will
to
be totally
close that
closed.
off so that
Yes.
it doesn't remain. Thank you. All right, seeing no further questions, that concludes your 5-minute clarification period. Thank you so much. All right. We have closed the public meeting and we'll need a mover and a seconder to put this on the floor for discussion. Moved by Counselor McCreary and it was seconded by Counselor Carpenter. So any discussion? Item 4.1, we have Counselor McCreary up first.
Chair, thank you. I think this is an appropriate development for the street. I like the fact that it honors the street, faces the street, and that there's no crossing traffic, no traffic congestion. I think it's well done. I also have no problem with any of the allowances that have been made for what we could see as not quite meeting our rules. I think in this site specific location, that stuff's all okay. It's okay that it's not, 3 meters back from the sidewalk. I think that's fine. I think it creates a downtown look to the street, which I think is very appropriate. And I'm happy to move it and support it.
Thank you. And we have Counselor Carpenter next, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I'd echo those comments. This is a very, very nice development. Looks very well done. Keeping access to Oak Street, I think, was a great idea, especially with the kind of new businesses. And even the chain link fence concept with the 21 Oak Street, there's some common sense to that. So I think this is a good development, long overdue. Look forward to seeing the new businesses there on Colburn Street and services for the area. So I will fully support this. This is a good development. Thank you.
And thank you. And Counselor Seth.
Thank you. Yes, I as well fully support this development. I think it's kind of a major intersection in West Brantford, of the old West Brantford, and it's kind of an eyesore sitting there as a mud pit, and that's really all it is. That I think this will make that streetscape whole in that area, and it'll just enhance the appearance of the entire area by putting something new and well developed in that spot. So I'm certainly supportive, and I wish them well.
Thank you. I'll take the opportunity to download my opinion on this onto staff and everyone here. First of all, thank you to staff for making sure there's no access from Colburn Street, because that was going to be the one thing that I would have been very opposed to. If you've driven down Colburn Street West, particularly in peak times, it is an absolute zoo. It's become very unsafe. There's accident after accident, people trying to turn. So I'm glad that we have that regulated by the stoplight there on Oak Street. My concern is that where the driveway is in relation to the set of lights, that you're going to get a backup of people trying to leave that plaza. And it's going to back up that light, and people are now going to be zipping through that area, the side streets, to find a better way out. So my question to staff at this point is there any way that, and is this the appropriate time, say, that we can apply a condition to the site whereas traffic calming measures should be implemented on some of those surrounding streets?
Through the chair, this proposal will require site plan control application as well, and certainly through that process, we can discuss between all parties and see if any mitigation can be provided.
So I'll leave that recommendation with staff, and I won't try to do any amendments or anything at this point. But it will be very important to that neighborhood, particularly Winniett and Sherwood, that maybe we look at if the developer would like to work with the city in collaboration of applying some traffic calming measures to that area. Because I will guarantee you, and I've already thought about how am I going to get out of this Mary Brown's lineup and get home as fast as I can, and I'm probably going to whip around through Sherwood, and I'm probably not the only person. So I will leave that with you to apply when appropriate, when the site plan provision does come forward. Otherwise, I used to work on site, like I used to work in the building that used to be there. So I spent a lot of time on that corner. And you know, it's nice to see something coming in. It's nice to see people investing in beautiful Ward 1. I keep telling people it's worth the drive over the bridge. We have a lot to offer in Ward 1. So thank you for investing in our neighborhood. And I look forward to continuing working with you throughout this process. And that's it for me. Seeing no further speakers, we will call the vote.
Item 4.1 carries on a recorded vote of 4-0. Those voting in favor, Councillors Sokoli, Sless, McCreary, and Carpenter.
All right, no presentations, no delegations, no notice of motions. This meeting is now adjourned. Thank you, everyone.